Yo, what's up YouTube? It's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I am back again with another video. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk about the top 5 players I believe should be traded before the end of the season. It's crazy that we're only 10 games into the regular season, and there's a lot of trade rumors going on already. Well, it's probably not that crazy because some of these teams are really bad and they have some really great talented players on their roster, and I do believe they need to move them. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more awesome NBA content. Also, I don't really ask people to do this often, but go to my Twitter. You don't have to follow me, but on my Twitter page, I have a tweet that I'm pinned up where you, the viewer, can vote on my next video. So make sure you go check that out and vote. And if you believe I missed a player in the video, you can always leave it in the comment section below. Also, if you agree or disagree with me, you can leave that in the comment section below as well. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into the video. Here are the 5 players I believe should be traded this season. So the first player on this list is Brook Lopez. Now, Brook Lopez, 7 foot big for the Brooklyn Nets, is a solid offensive piece that I feel like a lot of teams could really utilize on their roster. When it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, I feel like they've come to the conclusion that Brook Lopez really isn't a centerpiece. He's not a franchise player. He's not a player that's going to turn around an entire organization. And I think that's fine. I don't think Brook Lopez should be forced to be that. And I feel like the longer he stays on Brooklyn, those are the expectations that they need to have out of him. And he's just not going to reach those expectations. So they need to trade him. And on top of that, they have some solid pieces on their team already. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, I believe, is a solid player. Sean Kilpatrick is also playing really solid this season. So trading away Brook Lopez right now actually makes sense. If you look at his numbers, again, really solid player, really nice offensive presence inside. And like I stated earlier, some teams that could potentially need that. But I believe the most important thing to really look at is his salary. He's only on contract for 2 more years. It's a pretty hefty contract, but I do believe there are some teams that are willing to move some pieces around and make sure that they can be able to bring on Brook Lopez on their roster. But the biggest reason why I do believe they need to trade Brook Lopez right now, it's because Brook Lopez and his value, this is probably the highest it's ever been in his entire career, because a lot of people were always speculating if he could be able to play multiple games an entire season, which last year you can make an argument he did prove that. So that's something that can be checked off the list. And also Brooklyn, they need draft picks and they need it really, really bad. So trading away Brook Lopez to get some draft picks, I think that's arguably the best way and the best move for the Brooklyn Nets to choose. Also, these 3 teams right here, in my fair estimation, that these are the best 3 destinations for Brook Lopez and for the Brooklyn Nets as well. Next player on the list is Nikola Vukovich. Now, Vukovich is a big man that plays for the Orlando Magic, and you probably don't know him. He's probably gone underneath the radar because for whatever reason, Orlando decided that they were going to load up on their front court and just give Vukovich less minutes, which is a sad thing because Vukovich is actually a really solid player. He consistently grabs 10 or more rebounds, and he's a threat on the offensive end, but I just don't see him being a fit for the Orlando Magic. Also, when it comes to Orlando, I believe they need a more prominent piece on the perimeter, especially when it comes to the point guard position, because in the front court, they have players like Bismack Biyombo, Serge Ibaka, Jeff Green, Mario Hezonja, and then obviously Aaron Gordon. So keeping Vukovich on the team, I just believe it doesn't really fit this team at all. The greatest thing about Vukovich is that he's on a very reasonable contract. He's only on contract for 2 more years, but none of the years amount to over $13 million, which is great for any team who needs a 7-footer who can bring some offensive presence inside and also rebound the ball really well. And to add to the value, Vukovich just turned 26 like a few months ago, so that's even better for the Orlando Magic. However, the reason why they might not trade him is because they don't necessarily know what Serge Ibaka is going to do, which might end up hurting them later on down the road. So if they don't trade him, I thoroughly understand why they're not going to. However, if they can get Serge Ibaka under a lengthy contract, then I say go ahead and pull the trigger on Vukovich and try to go out there and get you a point guard. These right here are the teams that I believe that Vukovich is a best fit for, and I do believe Golden State Warriors has a real legitimate chance of picking up Vukovich if they make the correct moves. But if not, there's other teams in the NBA that will be grateful for having Vukovich on their roster. Next up is Carmelo Anthony. Now I talked about Carmelo Anthony for an entire video, so if you missed that video, I'm gonna make sure I link it somewhere, put an annotation, something should pop up so you can click on that video. However, when it comes to that video, a lot of people had some things to say, so instead of me going into details on why Carmelo Anthony should be traded, because I think it is fairly obvious, let me clear up a few things that I stated in that video that a lot of people may have misunderstood or some misconceptions. One, Carmelo Anthony is indeed declining. For whatever reason, there were some people making this argument that Carmelo Anthony hasn't declined yet, which is crazy. But if you don't think he hasn't declined yet, you have to come to the conclusion, just because of age, he is going to decline eventually. Because of this, there's no rhyme or reason for you to just sit here and have him, a declining superstar, with an up-and-coming all-star on your team in Porzingis, who potentially could be a superstar in his own right as well. Two, for whatever reason, there are so many Knicks fans, and really this is a lot of fan base, not just New York Knicks, but particularly when it comes to Carmelo Anthony, there's so many Knicks fans who just fall in content when it comes to, oh, well, Carmelo Anthony is the only way that we're going to make the playoffs. Is that all you're trying to do is make the playoffs? I thought the purpose was to eventually to win a championship. There's absolutely no way within 2 or 3 seasons, because that's really the window that the New York Knicks have, just to be realistic with people. There's no way in a 2 to 3 year window that the New York Knicks are going to be able to build around Carmelo Anthony or Porzingis or whoever and get a championship. I was always a firm believer of what they did in the offseason. It was great. It was some pretty good moves. But they probably should have done that 2 years ago. At this point, it just doesn't make any sense to invest that much money into a player like Joakim Noah, and you really don't know what you're going to get out of him a year or two down the line. It just didn't make any sense at all. And the fact that you don't even know if Derrick Rose is really going to commit after this year. And even if he does, is that something that you really want, or you think that's something that you can base your identity around for the next 3 to 4, even 5 years down the line? I don't really know. However, I just feel like at this point, Carmelo Anthony, even at the age of 32, his value is very high, so you should probably trade him away. Also understand that Carmelo Anthony has a no trade clause. I get that. So because of that, these are the 3 teams I believe that he has the most likely to end up on by the end of the season. 2 of them, those are the teams that he wants to be on. The other one is the Boston Celtics, which I still feel like is a really good trade if the New York Knicks really want to go after that. And I think the New York Knicks have a pretty solid chance of convincing Carmelo Anthony to waive the no trade clause so he can end up on a team that has a better likelihood to make the finals than the New York Knicks. Next up is DeMarcus Cousins, young boogie on the board, 6'11" big man that plays for the Sacramento Kings, who is a beast and has been a beast inside for a very long time now. However, the whole experiment between him and Sacramento, the new head coaches, the new point guards, the new system that keeps being brought in and year out, that just isn't working, and it does seem like Sacramento is fed up with the attitude that DeMarcus Cousins has displayed over the past few years. So obviously it does seem like DeMarcus Cousins will be traded. The biggest asset when it comes to getting DeMarcus Cousins is, he's DeMarcus Cousins. So you're going to get somewhere between 24, maybe even 27, almost 30 points when it comes to DeMarcus Cousins, depending on the system that they put around him, but for sure at least 24 points. Along with 9 to 10, potentially 11, maybe even 12, because 2 years ago he did average nearly 13 rebounds. So you're going to get on the boards as well. Also, you're going to get somebody who can stretch the floor at the 5 position, regardless if it's at the 3, or somebody who can knock down a deep mid-range shot. So that's going to be great for the offense as well. However, the biggest negative and drawback when it comes to DeMarcus Cousins isn't his attitude. I think it's his contract. When it comes to his attitude, I think that is just a symptom of playing with the Sacramento Kings. You play on the Sacramento Kings for too long, you probably be like that as well. However, when it comes to his contract, I think that's the biggest question mark. He's getting paid reasonably well for his talent. He's not being paid over $20 million through neither of the years that he's still under contract. However, after next season, he's off contract. So if any team makes really serious moves that go after and get DeMarcus Cousins, another year down the line, they could be missing out on the piece that they actually put a lot of investments into getting, and that could suck. So that is something that the Sacramento Kings are going to have to put into consideration when it comes to finding a destination for DeMarcus Cousins. These are the 3 teams I believe that DeMarcus Cousins should likely go to, and I actually believe all 3 of these teams have a pretty solid chance of getting DeMarcus Cousins, especially if you throw some draft picks towards Sacramento. And finally, people, we have John Wall. For whatever reason, I really don't hear John Wall name into trade rumors that often. However, I think the whole John Wall Washington Wizards, that experiment is kind of over with at this point. It's starting to become fairly obvious that the Washington Wizards may have spent too much time and effort trying to convince Kevin Durant to come over, and they basically wasted the entire offseason putting value into something that probably was never going to happen anyway. The fact that Kevin Durant made the decision to not even sit down with the organization and talk about his free agency should probably open the eyes of the fan base and come to some conclusion about rebuilding fairly quickly. And I don't really think that John Wall is going to be part of that process, especially because he's been very vocal about the lack of money he's received, and he's been very vocal about how disappointed he is in his teammates and the franchise that they just haven't been able to consistently win, which is fairly understandable, to be honest with people. John Wall on a night-to-night basis, he puts up the numbers that he needs to put up, and he does what he needs to do. Over the past 2 seasons, he's given his team somewhere between 17 to 20 points, along with 10 assists and some boards as well. So John Wall is doing his part. However, just through injuries and bad decision making and just not be able to convince players to come over and play for Washington, they just haven't been able to build a team around John Wall whatsoever, which again is pretty sad. However, you know, it is what it is. Also, when it comes to any negative things about John Wall, to be completely honest with people, outside of the fact that he's not the greatest three-point shooter in the NBA, there's not too many negatives when it comes to trading John Wall, which is why I believe that they should trade John Wall now rather than later. After this season, he has 2 more years in his contract, so whatever team gets him, they still have him locked down for at least 2.5 years, which is great. He's still young, that's also great. But also, I do enjoy this attitude that's coming from John Wall. It seems like he's ready to prove people wrong and put people into this mind state that he is one of the better point guards in the NBA, which is great. But he can't do that playing for Washington. So here are the 3 teams I believe John Wall could be traded to, which I believe all of them will be great fits. But to be completely honest with people, there are multiple teams in the NBA that could probably use an upgrade at point guard, and I do believe John Wall could be that for them. So yeah, hashtag free John Wall, free DeMarcus Cousins, and free Anthony Davis. Even though I didn't have him on this list, put that hashtag in the comment section below as well. Hashtag free AD. So there you have it, people. Those are the top 5 players I believe should be traded from their teams, their organizations, from that roster, because it just isn't working for them in the situation that they're in. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well if you enjoy the content, to be updated on all the videos that I upload on this channel. Also, make sure you do go to Twitter so you can retweet or favorite that tweet so I understand what's my next video going to be, and it should be out in the next 2 days. But if you don't do none of that, make sure you do leave a comment in the comment section below if you feel like I missed a player or I was wrong about somebody. You can always leave that in the comment section below, and I will see you all next time. Peace.